EDH deck building. I am your host, Demo, and I'm going through all the sets, picking out the best commander cards from each one, and I'm currently doing the Urza block because of course that's how they used to do things. It was 3 sets per block. You had the starter set and then you had the 2 expansions. Already did Urza's Saga, and now we are on to Urza's Legacy. And again, we all know this was a really powerful magic set in general, and this one's not quite as powerful as Urza's Saga, but it is really good. We got some fantastic staples here. Again, I gotta give some honorable mentions like Oriflux and Vyoshino Heretic. Just great cards in the commander format if you want to be hating on enchantments or if you want to be hating on artifacts. I really like Planar Collapse. That's a underutilized card in the format, I think. Essentially just a 2-mana board wipe. Gotta wait until your upkeep for the trigger, I guess, but this card fits really nicely into a lot of decks, I think. Memory Jar is a colorless wheel, which is why it gets used in a lot of commander decks, giving you a bunch of draw and discard triggers, giving your opponents a bunch of draw and discard triggers. So of course that's going to fit into a lot of decks. And I guess I also have to give an honorable mention to Grim Monolith. It's from Urza's Legacy and it's one of the most powerful mana rocks ever created. Doesn't see a ton of play, of course, because it is a really expensive card. It's a mana positive mana rock, of course, which means it's only costing 2 mana but adding 3 colorless mana. And if I was going after this, like a lot of people like Mana Vault, for me Grim Monolith is way better. It costs 1 more, but the fact that you can untap it whenever you want. Mana Vault, of course, you have to untap it on your upkeep, and it also deals you damage if it remains tapped. So for me, Grim Monolith would be my first choice. If it wasn't super expensive, that's the one I would go after. It is a really great mana rock, but I wouldn't exactly call it a really popular card in the format, or certainly not a really important card in the format. I like to stick to cards that are doing more unique things. So getting to the list, coming in at number 10 is Crawlspace, 3 mana artifact. No more than 2 creatures can attack you each combat. So this is a colorless Pillow Fort effect, which of course is really important in the commander format. This is not a card that you see a ton anymore. I used to see it a lot more when I first started playing. It gets used a lot in decks where you don't want to be attacked a whole bunch, but you're not in those typical Pillow Fort colors, right? So for that reason, I think I had to give it a mention on this list. It is a really important effect if you're looking for that kind of thing and you're not in, I guess, white or blue. Does still see quite a bit of play in the format. Coming in at number 9, Quicksilver Amulet. 4 mana artifact, pay 4 and tap. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That's a pretty great effect, right? That works in a lot of decks. Again, it's a colorless card, so it can fit in any deck. That to me is a lot more important in the commander format. I'm actually surprised this card doesn't see more play. I mean, if you're in any deck where you got lots of big creatures, just putting them into play for 4 mana is great. Of course, the other added bonus here is you can do it at instant speed, which can be a really great benefit as well. Just a really powerful effect that can be used in a lot of different ways on a colorless card. I think it's great, and I had to put it on this list. Coming in at number 8, Defense of the Heart. 3 and a green enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards, put those cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Just an incredibly powerful effect in a commander game. Again, another card that I used to see in almost every commander game I played. I saw it all the time. Don't see it nearly as much anymore. Still in about 22,000 decks on EDH Rec, which is pretty good. I haven't seen it in a game in a long time. It just became one of those cards that as soon as it hit the table, you had to get rid of it, right? Because of course, it's very easy for your opponent to have 3 or more creatures. You're going to play it probably when they already have 3 or more creatures. So all you have to do is wait for your upkeep, and then you get to go get any 2 creatures out of your library and put them directly into play. And of course, a lot of people would use this for the combos where you could just get 2 creatures that combo to win the game. So whenever this hit the table, it just became, we got to get this off the table before that person's upkeep, or it's probably going to be game over. That might be part of the reason why it has lost popularity a little bit. Still, obviously, a really great card in a commander game. Coming in at number 7, No Mercy. 2 black enchantment. Whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. And of course, as I get up this list, I don't really need a whole lot of explanation. Again, this is a phenomenal set. tons of fantastic commander staples. And again, we're in that sort of pillow fort effect in a color that doesn't really do it, right? When I said that white and blue are sort of the pillow fort colors, a lot of people were like, hey, what about black? Black has great effects like No Mercy. This is another card that you could put in any deck, right? If you're making a black commander deck, there's no reason not to put this in your deck because it's just going to deter your opponents from attacking you. And the great thing about these pillow fort effects is whenever you're putting them in your deck, even if you're not doing a pillow fort theme at all, it just encourages your opponents to attack each other. I have a No Mercy in play. My opponents are wide open. So if one of my opponents wants to attack with their giant creature, maybe it's a Voltron creature, they're not going to attack me because of course they don't want their commander to get destroyed. They're going to end up attacking someone else. So not only is it a huge benefit to you to be not attacked, but it sort of redirects the attacking onto your other opponents. Obviously a fantastic card in a commander game without a doubt. Coming in at number 6, Frantic Search. And as we get up this list, I'm gonna not necessarily be talking about super powerful cards with super powerful effects. I'm gonna be talking about some cards that are just ubiquitous and there are go-tos that people just coming back to over and over and over again whenever you're looking for an effect like this. 2 in a blue instant, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, untap up to 3 lands. This is maybe the best looting card ever created. So of course I have to put it on this list. It's essentially free and actually can even be better than free, right? If you have a land in play that is tapping for more than 1 mana, you're actually gaining mana off of this, right? If I have like a Cabal Coffers or a Gaia's Cradle in play, maybe I'm putting this in my deck because I don't really care so much about the looting. I care more about the untapping lands part of it, right? So this really is a fantastic card for that as well, but really one of the best looting options in the entire game of Magic, in my opinion. Drawing 2 cards and then discarding 2 cards is great. Again, it's essentially free as long as you have the 3 mana. You're just going to untap those lands so that you can use them for something else. I suppose if someone counters it, you won't be able to untap the lands, but other than that scenario, you're essentially getting a free spell. It's of course at instant speed, which makes it even better. Just really one of the best looting spells in the history of the game, so I gotta give it a mention on this list. Coming in at number 5, Mother of Runes. Again, as we get up this list, people are gonna be like, okay, well, obviously that's gotta be on the list, right? 1 white mana, human cleric, 1/1, tap target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Again, just one of those ubiquitous cards that we see in the format all the time, and we just keep going back to the well whenever we're looking for these effects. Again, though, in any deck, this is fantastic. Yes, you can put this in a deck just to protect your commander, protect any creature. It can be used in lots of other ways as well, though, right? Target creature gains protection from the color of your choice means you can use it for a lot of different things, like, for example, making your commander unblockable. If I'm playing against a guy who's like got a mono black deck, for example, I give my commander protection from black. Now, not only can they not target it, but I also can get in for damage because they can't block it as well. So giving your creatures protection, there's a lot of different ways that you can use that. And of course, Mother of Runes is particularly good, better than some other effects that do this because she can target herself, right? If your opponent tries to kill your Mother of Runes, you can just tap this to give your Mother of Runes protection from whatever that color of removal spell is. Your opponent casts a Blasphemous Act. Now I can just tap my Mother of Runes, give it protection from red, and it will survive that board wipe. Again, just a fantastic, ubiquitous, phenomenal card that could probably go in any commander deck. Coming in at number 4, Crop Rotation. Continuing on with the list of phenomenal commander staples from this set. 1 green mana instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a land. Search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So again, we have an instant speed card, which isn't really that necessary, but only makes the card better. And it's another one of those cards that when they printed it, they just weren't thinking about all the busted scenarios you can do with this. I just sacrifice my basic forest and go get a Gaia's Cradle again, or any other incredibly busted land in the format. But also, you know, there's a lot of little combos you can do here. Maybe I'm doing the Dark Depths combo and I want to go get that. Any other really important land that I need in my deck, of course, there are an absolute ton of those. My opponent is attacking me with their giant creature, so I go get a Maze of Ith. We all know there is a ton of really important, really powerful lands in the format that we can be using on our decks that we can just for 1 mana sacrifice a basic forest to go get and put directly into play. Obviously a fantastic card that can be used in a ton of different ways, whether you're in that that landfall or land sacrifice theme, or just in any deck at all, it's going to be a great card for you, no doubt about it. Coming in at number 3, Goblin Welder. 1 red mana, Goblin Artificer 1/1. Tap, choose target artifact a player controls and target artifact card in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the other artifact to the battlefield. So a lot of people might be surprised at how high I put this on the list, and I am being maybe a little subjective here because obviously some of the cards lower on this list are way more ubiquitous than this is, but the uniqueness and powerfulness of this ability made me put it up the list. I also just really love this card. Again, so many different ways to use it. If you're in any artifact theme at all, it's fantastic. Even if you're just in a treasure token theme, it can be really, really good, right? I can just sacrifice a treasure token to go get any other artifact out of my graveyard and put it directly into play, even if it's just a sad robot. One of my favorite value plays of all time is just I continually sack my sad robot, draw a card, bring it back into the play, go get another land. Such fantastic value there. But also what a lot of people miss about this card is it works on your opponents too, and this is just a fantastic way to get rid of any of your opponent's artifacts that are troublesome for you as long as they have one in their graveyard. And of course, if you're in a red deck, getting rid of artifacts is pretty easy unless your opponent has like a Blightsteel Colossus, right? Now it might get difficult. So I've destroyed my opponent's Lightning Greaves, let's say, earlier in the game with some other removal spell. Now my opponent is attacking me with that Blightsteel Colossus. I can choose that artifact, right? I choose the Lightning Greaves in their graveyard and the Blightsteel Colossus that is attacking me, and they're gonna swap places. So that Blightsteel Colossus goes to the graveyard. Of course, it'll get shuffled into their library as well, added bonus there, and then they're gonna get their Lightning Greaves back. So really, really great card. There is a lot of situations where this guy can be sitting on the battlefield and you can actually find interesting ways to use it on yourself, sure, but also on your opponents as well. Just a fantastic card in a commander game, I think. Coming in at number 2, Karmic Guide, and it got kind of hard once I got to the top of this list to put things exactly where I want to put them. You really could probably rearrange like the top 5 or 6 here, however. I put them in the order of how important I think they are and how ubiquitous they are in the format. Of course, everyone's seen a Karmic Guide before in the format. 3 white, white, Angel Spirit 2/2, flying protection from black, and has Echo. 3 white, white, which means, of course, at the beginning of your upkeep, after it's come into play, you have to pay the Echo cost or sacrifice it, which usually doesn't matter at all because you don't care so much about keeping it around after it's in play, but can actually be a benefit in a lot of decks where maybe you want to be sacrificing, right? Of course, the main reason why you are putting this in your deck is because of this fantastic ETB ability, one of the best ever printed on a creature. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So just getting any creature out of your graveyard, and a lot of people might say, hey, 5 mana to get a creature out of your graveyard, that's not great. Even in mono white does have cheaper ways to get a creature directly out of your graveyard from the battlefield, but what makes this card so great is it is that ability stapled on a creature. And like I say all the time, when you have these abilities stapled on creatures, it makes it so much better in a lot of different decks. So I'm in a blinking deck. Now I can just keep blinking my Karmic Guide over and over again, maybe in response to that Echo trigger so I don't have to sacrifice it, get something else out of my graveyard. I'm in that recursion theme. So I can let my Karmic Guide go to the graveyard, get it back, and then get something else back as well. Or maybe I just want to combo off with that Revelark, right? This is the combo where I let my Karmic Guide die, and then I let my Revelark die. Revelark comes back into play. I get my Karmic Guide back with it, and something else as well. Sort of rinse and repeat. You can get into some infinite combos there, of course. Just a really, really fantastic card in the format. Gets used in a ton of different decks for a ton of different reasons. I thought number 2 was a pretty good spot for it. Number 1, though, for me is going to be Rancor. I mean, this is a common. Again, another card that they just did not think was going to be as powerful or as ubiquitous as it is just in the game of Magic in general. I had to put this at number 1 because I think this is one of the best cards all time for giving your creatures trample, and really one of the best auras ever printed in the game of Magic. And of course, it gets used in the Commander format an absolute ton. Currently in over 52,000 decks on EDH Rec. That's a whole lot, right? So if you haven't seen it before, it's just just a 1 green mana enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample, which is not a hugely fantastic effect. 1 green mana for that effect is pretty darn good. There's a whole lot of commanders out there that you want to be giving trample to for various reasons. I just put this in my Glissa Sunslayer deck because, of course, trample works phenomenally with First Strike and Death Touch for a number of reasons, especially when you want your commander to be getting in for combat damage. There's a lot of commanders in the format that you want to be getting in for combat damage with, and giving them trample and the +2 bump is a great way to do this. But what really puts this card over the top and why people keep going back to it over and over again is because of that last ability. When Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Rancor to owner's hand. So you just keep getting it back over and over and over again, so that you always have that option in your hand that you can give your commander or any other creature trample with. One of the big downsides of auras is you lose value with it a lot of times, right? I put this on my creature gets killed, I lose the enchantment as well, and this ability gets around it. In fact, gets around a couple of situations where my opponent just destroys my Rancor with their enchantment removal spell. That's my Rancor going from the battlefield to the graveyard. So I get to return it to my hand, or if they destroy the creature, it also is going from the battlefield to the graveyard, so I get to return it to my hand there as well. It's really, really difficult to get rid of a Rancor. Once it enters play, you're just going to keep repeating the cycle until someone can exile it in some way, right? Enchantment exile is not exactly something that's super common in the format. Even if they exile the creature that the Rancor has on it, it still is going to go from the battlefield to the graveyard, so they will get it back. Really tough, annoying card to get rid of once it enters that cycle, and just the best card maybe in the history of the game for giving a creature trample. So that's why I put it at number 1. But that is it. That is all. That is my best commander cards from Urza's Legacy. Of course, we have an absolute ton of fantastic commander staples here that get used in the format all the time. Really great set for the commander format. Let me know if there's any cards that you would have added to this list. Of course, there's a ton of great cards from this set. Maybe you would have put something else at number 1 or number 2 rather than the ones that I chose. Let me know in the comments below. And if you were thinking of purchasing any of these cards, if by some strange chance you've actually never seen them before and you think they might be good includes in your decks, I do have a TCG Player link. Give it a click. It helps support the channel. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.